Tonight, we continue our series of interviews with candidates in this year's city election. Our guest is making his third run for city councilor at large, an entrepreneur and business person. He worked 23 years at Boston Centers for Youth and Families, along with being a Pop Warner football coach. He's also been an outspoken advocate for better response to problems with public health and public safety around Mass Ave and Cass Boulevard. We'd like to welcome Domingos DaRosa. Thank you very much for being with us again, Domingos.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. Like you said, third time's a charm. I'm hoping this time around we achieve our goal and obtain one of the seats within the city council.
You have an interesting background, more than one background, actually. Youth worker, business person, and activist. Of all of those, what do you think is most important for making you stand out in this field of candidates?
For me, like I tell folks, I wear many hats, but my most important hat that I wear is the title father, who gives, that title itself gives me the energy to push to be all those different individuals, because I want my children to have a safe environment to grow in, an education system that provides them with more than just a foundation to become successful, especially in today's world. For me, being an activist, being an advocate for my community has always been a part of me. It's something that I've been doing since I was about 12 years old, working with DSNI when they first came to the neighborhood, where, a lot of the lots on Dudley Street and Blue Hill was just empty, torn down buildings. And we as a community, the youth in the community was able to work with this CDC to empower the community and bring in things that we needed. Even at my elementary school, the Emerson School on Dudley Street, we were able to put up a playground because of what we did as a community. I wasn't privy to that. When I was a student at the school, we didn't have a playground. So it was very important for me at a young age to give back to the community, because I noticed the things that we were lacking and the things that we did need. And the only way we can make those changes was within the community.
Right now, we have a lot of students who are struggling to recover just even academically, not to mention emotionally, from the pandemic. As a counselor, what do you see yourself doing for them?
Well, it's going to be, it's going to be an uphill battle, but it's a battle that needs to be fought. These students have been let down for generations. I'm a class of '96, Madison Park Technical High School. We had that issue when I was there, when I entered the school as a freshman in '92. The city was looking to transition by offering the facility to Wentworth. Wentworth was actually looking to buy it because it's already set up where they don't have to expend a lot of expense to repair and maintain the building. But today, BPS continues to cut budgets to low income areas in the city, to our schools that are most vulnerable. We have a 50% student failing rate, which is, for a 41% budget coming out of the city. There's no way in the world that we should be failing any students, especially with today's technologies and the way that we can communicate. But, we still have some gray areas that we need to talk about and be able to fill. We're just catching on to be able to give interpreters to families that speak a second language. And as you know, BPS has been providing second languages classes as far as back as we can remember, from the '80s. So we're just getting interpreters to be able to assist parents, which is our first step, is being able to give parents the ability to communicate with the teachers so they can actually put a plan together that the student would benefit. So a lot of the things that I'm looking at and a lot of things that I like to implement is, as a parent, my children go to school in the Concord system, which is also a public school system. And I noticed the difference between BPS and the Concord Carlisle system, where individual schools are able to raise $400,000 to $500,000 to assist the students by the parents. We don't have that luxury here in all our school in Boston. So that's one of the things that I would like to be able to come out and not just talk about, but actually come out and put the boots to the streets and bring in these parents and also empower these students. As you know, we had a whole group of our finest remove themselves not only from the school committee, they also removed themselves from the student advocacy board that they sat on because of what goes on, the systematic things that have been going on for generations. And we can't continue to allow that to happen as a city.
Well, one of the things is really hard for me to get my head around, and probably yours too, is that there are these things which we heard are really lacking for students at Madison Park, some of the things that language learners need. And at the same time, the city is spending more of its own money on the schools. So what's wrong?
Well, it's a disconnect. And what I mean by that, I'm a tradesman. For anyone that knows me, you know, I've been building clubhouses since the Little Rascals, right? That's one of the things that we're missing. We're not bringing in students. Again, Madison Park, we're down to 800 students. It's a tier 4 school. It's 12 out of 14 Votech high schools. There's institutes around the facility who will love to see that building put a for sale sign in front of it. Me as the alumni vice president, I also advocate at the fact that we need to increase the enrollment. The building itself is capable of capturing 2,500 students in various trades. We also need to add new trades to the building. As you know, technology keeps growing. We don't have that component at Madison Park. So we need to be able to capture the parents and the students at a 6th grade level, where as we do for the exam schools, where we kind of give a placement test. Well, this is not a placement test. This is just an aptitude test, asking simple questions. Do you like working with your hands? Are you, mechanically inclined? What are your hobbies? What are things that you like to do on your spare time? So we can kind of understand where our students stand. Do you want to go to college? Would you rather go to a trade school? Things like that. And we don't have that system in Madison. I happen to be placed at Madison. When I got there through the freshman year, we was able to travel to and from all the different what we call shops. And I winded up mechanics after doing electrical, carpentry, plumbing, hospitality, banking, cosmetology. I mean, I can run down the list, but Chris, again, it's a long list of trades. We're a trade city. We have over 30 plus trades in Madison. And that number is dwindling because we're not partnering up with the union trades. And that's one of the other components that we should be doing, is having these different unions partner up with the school, bring in some of the funds, because as you know, these unions also provide educational training for the laborers. So we want to be able to bring all those things to the table and allow folks who want to be there. We can't keep just dumping students in Madison just to fill the quarter. We can't allow the school to continue to fail because we don't have adequate numbers of teachers. We don't have an administrating staff that will keep the school on mainstream. We don't have a plan to put it back into circuit. Worcester Polytech recruits a lot of their students from the Worcester Votech High School. We're not doing that. We're not sending students to schools like MIT and Wentworth and BU and BC, where they have all these programs that we can be, taking advantage of.
Well, I want to save some time for Madison Cast because people have been raising alarms about that for years. Actually, you took that to another level recently. You took some of those needles that were being discarded, packed them together, brought them up almost to the driveway of Governor Baker and his wife in Swampscott. What did that accomplish?
Well, Chris, for me, it was more of it was something I needed to do. The frustration within my community is unbearable. I sold newspapers on Mass and Cash as a 12-year-old. I played football at Clifford Park since I was basically born. This is a family community. My family, when they first originally came to Boston, that's where we migrated to. I lived on Landon Street when my uncle bought it back in the 60s. So my family's been in that area for the last 40 plus years. And to see the area crumble to what it is today, I run a program called the Boston Bengals. I'm a president and a coach. And I was able to bring in 7 football teams, 5 cheerleading squads, and we had about 300 plus students. And as the issue began to fan out into the community, this program dwindled. These are children who we were servicing that live within the community, low-income families that need the services at a fee that they can afford. But not only the Boston Bengals program, the Emerson School, the Mason School, the Orchard Garden School started losing participants within the school because parents were transferring them to another school because the school grounds were saturated with needles. The playgrounds were being used for things besides the children being able to participate in recess. The schools in the area had to come up with a see a needle, get an adult plan. Like, we shouldn't be teaching 5-year-olds how to line search needles before they can play in the playground. And this is what was being done. Countless emails, countless phone calls that we as a community continue to do, to the point where we was able to organize community members to form the South End Roxbury Community Partnership, because this is an issue that affects both communities, but we wasn't at the table discussing this collectively. So from the last 10 months, we've been able to gain the attention, not only from some elected officials, but from other towns and cities, to be able to come together and put the pressure on folks who have the power to make the change.
Domingos, just a very small amount of time here, but you do have an event coming up tomorrow, right?
Yes, I do. I'm actually having my campaign kickoff. We're actually going to kick it off right on Mass and Cass. Like I said, this area is a big part of me. I'm a Bostonian. The medical facility, I've been using it for me since I was as young as 9 months. For my siblings, from birth. My brothers were born in Boston Medical. Folks that have a little bit of history of Boston, we talk about the emergency room being in the basement. But what we're doing tomorrow is bringing out the community so the community can have a voice. The campaign that I'm running with my staff is a voluntary-based campaign. We have no paid volunteers. We have no paid staff. Everyone is doing this because they want to see change. We are tired of seeing what goes on in Boston. We want a better city for everybody.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Great to see you again, Chris. I'll wish you the best. Stay safe, keep your hands clean, and I'll see you along the trail.
I'm sure you will. Domingos DaRosa, candidate for Boston City Councilor at Large. We'll have more news in just a moment.